Poverty. It changed the human spirit. How did they break free? Government can't solve these problems, but people can. Escape from Poverty wants to help. Guiding people like Amy, who makes pralines.
I have a dream of not only having a candy store in Lafayette, but in the surrounding areas and eventually go international.
Families like Carol and Kelly.
I think I would like to someday become a chorus teacher.
One of my dreams is to become a teacher, a basketball coach, and a football coach.
Recovering addicts like Greg.
It's just amazing about life. You know, life, you never know what the day gonna bring. You never know what the day gonna bring. And, you know, that's some of my goals. Some of my goals, long-term goals, is to help others, be of service to others, and to own my own business.
Single moms like Tyra.
I would like to eventually own my own business. And what? I don't know. I know I'll be helping people in some sort of way, but I want to eventually work for myself.
Anybody can help somebody out of poverty.
You can too.
The people in these classes are also starring in a reality TV show. Join us as we follow their journey from poverty to success.
Our dream is to make their dreams come true.
Escape from poverty.
Escape from poverty.
Escape from poverty.
Escape from poverty is transforming my life.
Transforming my life.
Transforming my life.
It's transforming my life.
Welcome to Escape from Poverty. Tonight we're going to begin with our very first Bible study, and we're going to study the story of Joseph. The reason I like the study of Joseph is because Joseph was the greatest victim in the world. And he was betrayed. He went through so much unfair injustice, and yet he was an overcomer, and I think he's a great example for us all. To lead this Bible study is pastor of New Hope Church, John Newman. New Hope is a multicultural church here in Lafayette, in Upper Lafayette. John is married to Chris. They've been married for 27 years, and they've been ministry partners for 15 years, and he calls Chris his best friend. I think that's sweet. Recently, John and Chris began a faith-based inner-city neighborhood outreach program in a rec center where they do tutoring for kids who are at risk. And they have about 20 volunteers working with 25 kids. He's the father of 5 children, 2 boys at UL and some kids in high school and junior high. But here's the best thing about John. He's my pastor, and he's awesome. And he's like the best small group Bible study leader I have ever had in all of my years. And I'm kind of old, you know. He's awesome. And he's also a friend and a mentor. So I just couldn't think of anybody better. He was my first choice for y'all, and I was really excited he said yes. So be blessed. Okay. John, take it away.
Thank you very much, Linda, for those kind words. I'm honored to be with you guys tonight, and I love the story of Joseph as well. So we're going to, over the next few nights, we're going to talk about Joseph, and we're going to look at his life, and we're going to talk about how God builds a godly character in an individual. And Joseph, as Linda said, he had some difficulties in his life, and God used those difficulties to shape him, because God had a special assignment for Joseph. God had a special purpose. But if you have a special assignment or special purpose, sometimes we need preparation. And in the military, they call it boot camp. For sports, it's training camp. And sometimes that's really hard. And Joseph went through some very difficult situations and difficult circumstances, but that's because God had a very special assignment for him, and he needed to be prepared. Well, there's just a few things I wanted to highlight. Joseph, his granddad was great-granddad was Abraham. His granddad was Isaac, and his dad was Jacob. And later on, Jacob had his name changed to Israel. And there were a couple of things I wanted to point out that were good, that were positive. How many of you are familiar with the story of the calling of Abraham? Tyra, what happened with Abraham? He was in a place called Ur of Chaldees. What happened to him?
What happened to him just in
Yeah,
general?
what was the call? What did God tell him to do?
God told him that he was going to bless him and multiply him, and he was going to make him a father of many nations. And I don't know, I just know that he's the man of faith.
Absolutely.
He's the father of our faith. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. He had a tight relationship with God, and God spoke to him directly.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, with all three of these guys, they had tight relationships with God. What did God ask Abraham to do? Do you remember?
He asked him a lot.
Amy?
He asked him to go to a place that he would lead him.
Ah.
He didn't know exactly where he would be going, but he knew that God was going to lead him to where he had to go.
Absolutely. In Genesis 12, 1 through 4, he almost uses those exact words. He says, go to the land that I will show you. And God, can you tell me where I'm going? No, I'll tell you when we get there. It's like, okay, you want me to leave everything? Yeah, I want you to leave everything. And Abraham was about 2000 BC, a long, long time ago. So there aren't cars. He's walking. And they estimate that it was about a 600-mile journey by foot. And, you know, can you imagine? Are we there yet? You know, are we there yet? But that's amazing to leave your family, no cell phone, no phone, you know, and to trust God that you're going to lead me to a right place, huh? I can count on you for this, right? So Abraham, he obeyed, and he left. He left and obeyed God. Now, his son Isaac, they settled in a land called Canaan. And when Isaac was growing up, there was a famine in the land. And Isaac was thinking about going to Egypt because Egypt had the Nile River and all kinds of good food there. And God's told Isaac, you need to stay. And Isaac obeyed. It's like, well, okay, you tell me to stay, I'm going to stay. And Isaac obeyed. Now, Jacob, there's a story about Jacob that he stole his brother's blessing. And when he stole his brother's blessing, his brother found out about it. How do you think he was happy that his dad blessed him, that he blessed Jacob instead of himself? No. Jacob had to leave because Esau was going to kill him. And he had to go as far as he could go away. And at one point in time, God told him, you need to return back to the land of your fathers. You have to go back to where Esau lives. And he told him he had to return. And Jacob can't tell if Esau's still mad at him, but he obeys. He obeys God, and Jacob returns. So if you're going to say one thing about those three stories, I mean, is there one word that we could use to say a character trait or something in the family that would identify what's going on there?
Obedience.
Obedience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as we read those stories, that those guys were tight with God. God spoke to them in dreams. This was a devout religious family, and that was passed on from generation to generation. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, the second thing was that when Abraham left, he couldn't take very many animals with him. But when he got to Canaan, he ended up developing a huge herd. He had such a big herd that he couldn't even graze in the same grounds with his nephew. God really blessed him materially. And so he developed a large herd. I mean, do you think that would happen by accident? How does somebody develop a large herd? What does that take?
A lot of work.
A lot of patience.
Work, patience.
And somebody giving him, you know, for did he inherit it, or he just worked for it?
He started with something. But somehow he grew it so it was huge. It was humongous. He was
blessed.
He was blessed.
He was blessed.
His favorite.
Yeah, but he probably had to work.
Yeah, he had to
probably
work.
had to be diligent. Then lambs and sheep and goats weren't just raining from the sky.
Right.
He was blessed, but he had to work.
Okay.
He had to know something about animals, how to take care of them. In the story of Isaac, Isaac planted after the famine, and he stayed where he was supposed to stay. He planted, and it said that his harvest, he grew 100-fold. It was 3 or 4 times more than anybody else's. And Isaac grew huge crops and a huge herd. So again, to grow big crops, what does that take?
Work.
Skill, diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so he had crops and a large herd. And then Jacob, Jacob worked for his uncle Laban. And he worked for 7 years to get his first wife. It was supposed to be Rachel, but Laban lied to him, gave him Leah first. And then he worked another 7 years to get Rachel, the wife he really wanted. And Laban kept changing the rules of the game for him for working. But during the time that Jacob was working for his uncle Laban, Laban's herd grew hugely. And Laban realized, well, it wasn't growing like this before he got here. Now he's here, and everything's growing. This is wild. Eventually, Laban starts giving him some of his herd, and when Jacob returns home, he has a huge herd. I mean, it wasn't an accident. There was a difference. When Jacob got to Laban's herd, his herd grew. So what do you now, all 3 of them have this trait, that they can grow herds. And what I would say there is they learn some work ethics. They learn some skills. They learn some business skills. They learn how to take care of herds, crops. I don't think this happens by accident. I think Abraham mentored Isaac. I am sure that Isaac mentored Jacob. Jacob taught Isaac, this is how you take care of sheep. This is how you plant. There was some mentoring, there's some teaching, there's some going along side by side. That's how some of the generational blessings come, is when somebody comes alongside, when a mom comes alongside a daughter and says, hey, this is how you cook. You know, this is how you take care of a baby. When a dad comes along, a son, hey son, this is how you fix a car. Those are part of generational blessings. And mentoring is going on, and we can see that in the story, and it goes on for generations. That's amazing. Well, then there's some not so good things that happen. Abraham, even though he was a man of faith, when he had a famine that went on, he decided to go to Egypt because there were lots of food in Egypt because of the Nile River. And he realized that his wife was very attractive. And he was afraid that Pharaoh, or one of the rulers in Egypt, would kill him to get his wife. Now, the reality was Sarah, his wife, was akin, like a half-sister, but he told Sarah, tell everybody you're my sister. We're going to act like we're not married. So he doesn't out and outright lie. It's sort of true, but he deceives. Oops, did I spell that wrong? Yes, I did. He deceived. Generational curse, I can't spell. So, but anyway. Then what's interesting is Isaac, when he marries Rebekah, they go to the land of Gerar, and there's a king by the name of Abimelech. And Abimelech says, you know what? Or Isaac says, I'm a little afraid that the king might kill me to get my wife. Do you know what he does? Guess what he does?
Does the same thing that Abraham did.
He does the exact same thing. He out and outright lies. He saw his daddy do it, you know, he heard the story of his daddy doing it. So he lies and says that this woman is my sister. Out and outright lies. So that's being passed down. To protect themselves, they're going to lie. So they're men of faith. They believe God. They'll travel hundreds of miles. They'll stay during famines. But now when they're worried about a ruler or something, they'll say, oh man, well, you know, she's my sister, you know, we're cool, we're not, we're good. So they're not perfect. But this little deceit thing goes on. Now, Isaac's wife is Rebekah, and he's the one that tells people to lie. Jacob, he is told that God's going to bless him, and Abraham's blessing goes from Isaac to Jacob Isaac to Jacob, and Rebekah hears Isaac, the dad, saying to Esau, "Go hunt, kill me some wild game, prepare it for me, and then I'm going to bless you." So the mom is outside the tent. She's eavesdropping. She hears the conversation. And when Esau goes out to hunt, she says, "Jacob, come here. Your dad is going to give the final blessing because he knows he's close to dying. So what I'm going to do is I want you to kill a lamb, and I'm going to prepare it just the way your dad likes it. And then after I prepared it just the way he likes it, you take the wool from that lamb, put it on your arms, and so you look like you're hairy like your brother. Talk in that deep manly voice so he thinks it's Esau. And then you go, tell him you're Esau, tell him that you prepared this, and that you cooked it, you prepared it, and you're ready for the blessing." So Rebekah and Jacob lie to Isaac to get Isaac's blessing. They deceive Isaac. So another lie. So there's some lies. And they're lying to get their way. They're lying to manipulate, lying to protect. Here, Jacob is lying to manipulate to get his father's blessing. The last thing I want us to look at in terms of some negative character traits is favoritism. And Isaac only had two sons, Jacob and Esau, and they were twins. They were born at the same time. And in Genesis 25:27, it says that Esau was a hunter, and you know he was sort of a manly man, and Dad liked Esau. Jacob hung around the tents, and he raised the sheep, and Mom loved Jacob. So there was some favoritism. Dad favored Esau, and Jacob favored Esau. Rebekah favored Jacob. What happens in a family when there's favoritism?
Competition.
Jealousy.
Resentment.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So can you imagine the dynamics between the two brothers? And then if Mom likes one child and Dad likes another child, what's going on?
Strife.
What's that, Amy? Strife?
Competition.
Yeah. And the parents are going to work the kids against each other? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what was going on there. So now we don't really have to worry about favoritism with Abraham. He only had one son of the promise. But Isaac, we have favoritism. And then Jacob, he had 12 sons, but one of his last sons was Joseph. And he called him the son of his old age. And do you remember from the Bible stories what special gift Joseph got?
A dreamer.
Pardon?
A coat.
Coat of many colors.
Coat of many colors. Yeah. And the Bible says that Joseph was Jacob's favorite. Now, you're a brother of Joseph. You know he's already the favorite, but Dad goes to extra lengths to hand make a special coat of many colors for his son. What are you thinking as a brother?
How come I didn't get a coat?
Yeah. How come I didn't get a coat?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to tear that up. And then, but what is Joseph thinking that he's Dad's favorite? What's going through his mind?
I got the upper hand, I can get anything I want. I mean, it depends on his mind frame. You know, if he's a good person, he won't think negative. If he's bad.
How about an average person? What would the average person think if they know they're Dad's favorite?
I can get away with just about anything. I can get away with, I can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm special.
I'm special.
You guys are just clowns. Dad likes me because I'm good and you guys are clowns and I'm the best one here.
I would say, like whatever everybody got good habits and bad habits, but the bad habits just might be a generational curse. So then you have to work hard and go through Christ, God, you know, to have that one-on-one communication with him to help you get through, to break that, then you can pass it on to, it could be a loved one, son, daughter, friend, somebody, then that can help them out. So that's what I learned.
Good.
I never thought about generational curses as carrying baggage, because I carry a lot of baggage, and I'm pretty sure I never knew my grandmother or my grandfather, and at one time I guess I was in a generational curse, and but I don't live like that no more, so it can be broken, and even with my kids, they see me doing better, so they want to do better, so I didn't think about it as carrying baggage. Yeah.
Yeah, well, wherever we're at, we need to understand how we got here. And if you want to get directions, you got to know where you are to figure out where you're going. One time my wife called me and she says, I need to get to, I can't remember the name of the streets. And she said, how do I get there? And I said, well, where are you? And she said, what difference does that make? Just tell me how to get there. And it's like, well, unless you know where you are, you can't go to, and so part of understanding our history is knowing what areas God has to work in our lives for us to be able to make that next step. So that's important. Well, for next time, I'd like to ask you to read Genesis 37. That's a story of the coat of many colors, and it's a story of how the story of Joseph starts. And I want you to think of two things for next time. And share them if you're willing to, but I want you to think about them and maybe jot some ideas down. One is, what's one area of your family history for which you're thankful? I grew up in a good, godly home. And because of that, I'm in ministry, and my sister, she went to a Bible college, and she married a music pastor, and so and she's part of a Christian school, teaching in a Christian school. That's part of the good part of my family, growing up in a good Christian home. And that's something I'm really thankful for. Think about something you could be thankful for in terms of your generational history. What are some things that were passed on to you, some resources, some assets that God has blessed you with through your upbringing? And then the other thing to think about is something in your family history that, if you think about it, it's like, oh man, I've seen that here, here, here. I see that with my cousins, my uncles, and you realize there's a theme in your family. Well, that might be a generational curse you might want to look at, that you might not affect you directly, but it might come out sideways. Be aware of it, and think about how that might impact you. So that's what we have for next time. And so think of one blessing, one thing to be thankful for, and one thing that God might need to work in your life when you look at your past. So thank you very much for tonight, and look forward to visiting with you guys again. And I think we're going to do Genesis 37 next week. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This class is available in its entirety along with printed curriculum through our website. Contact us at escapefrompoverty.org or at 337-984-4858.